Rich, could you tell me about Car and Classic, but whilst clearing your throat like Tom Jones?
No problem. Car and Classic is Europe's biggest classic sales site with over 35,000 cars and bikes for sale at any time. And now they do online auctions where you get professional photos, a detailed write-up, a secure payment service, and the chance to get your classic in front of 4 million monthly visitors. And all of Car and Classic's seller fees are only payable when your car actually sells.
Thank you. Smith & Sniff is sponsored by Car and Classic.
I knew Elvis, you know. I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Johnny Smith.
And this is Smith & Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars and many other things.
You can just hear the distant beeping outside because it's a cityscape.
Yeah, in a room again, together, which is a nice change in exercise. So this is a sort of guilt cast. Because we have such a backlog of messages, letters.
Terence Trent backlog. What's he? I remember him well.
So we have emails to hello@smithandsniff.com. I shouldn't encourage
Don't do
that
it
because we've already got lots. Of course, we've got messages from patrons.
Yeah.
People send us DMs through Instagram still. We're ignoring those because it's too complicated.
Well, I have to admit that I'm a little bit phobic of DMs because they just come in quicker than you can possibly fight them back.
But then also a lot of them are just telling you that someone has not liked but done something with your thing. They're not. As you can tell, I'm like a power user of Instagram.
Sorry, you're in your mid-40s, is that right?
Late.
Just need to check.
Late. My wife's just started rounding up now. She just goes, well, you are almost 50.
Shit, no. You're not.
No, I'm not.
No.
But at the same time I am. I mean, mathematically, you would round up.
Okay. I hadn't even considered that, actually.
I thought for this podcast.
Thanks to everybody, by the way. Sorry to interrupt. Thanks to everybody who has bothered to send us a letter.
Yeah.
And not a physical letter, a digital letter.
That's the one thing we don't get.
Because it is lovely that you want to interact. And we do try and... We are a bit shit, the pair of us.
We do read them.
It's just then we don't have any organisation beyond the reading of we must process this.
Yeah.
And we don't do the processing bit. That's the bit our New Year's resolution should be: process the fucking letters, you pair of absolute twats.
Yeah. So I've pulled out a few that I thought were worthy of further discussion. The first one I pulled out is just relates back to 4 or 5 shows ago, maybe. It's from Neil Williams at that very long name Volvo garage on Anglesey.
Oh.
He just says, "Hi guys, thanks for the mention on the podcast." He's got attached another picture of.
The long-named Volvo garage.
Let me have your address and I'll send you a lovely Volvo car sticker with the name of the village on it and a couple of mugs. I know. So
it's going to send us the back window sticker.
I guess so.
Oh.
So thanks, Neil. We'll be in touch, and that'd be really nice. But
here's the thing, Neil. Listen. Here's the situation. If at some point in the next 12 months we buy a Volvo with in excess of 6 days MOT left on it and we drive it straight to your garage, do we get more merch free? and also, what happens if we sort of leave it there and then get the train home? What happens?
So you're proposing of buying, I don't know, like an MOT, not an MOT failure, a near MOT
skin
failure.
of its teeth MOT'd.
Yeah. You can see the sills.
Really baggy. We're talking very high mileage. We're talking seats that are just soaked in guffs.
850.
I'm thinking an 850 or a V70.
A baggy 850.
Yeah.
It's been used by a painter.
And it's got that suspension clog, which is really irritating. That sort of lateral shimmy where you just feel something clonking, and it irritates you within 5 miles, but bear in mind you're going to do about a 6-hour journey to
it's quite a long way
to the garage with the long name.
Is it where you just know all of the suspension bushes look like chewed fruit pastilles?
Yeah, they do. They're one of those dog toys which just says, listen, your dog is never going to destroy this, and the Volvo will go, hold my beer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You've not met my dog. Also, you go underneath and you go, this isn't attached to anything. It's just some bit that you can't quite identify. Possibly an anti-roll bar, maybe? Or something like
I've had an anti-roll bar just
They're just not
dismount.
Yeah, it's just twanging at one end.
It is. It's just like
that's why it didn't go round left-hand corners the same way it went round right. I suppose an anti-roll bar is just going to frig you either way, though, isn't it? But
it's just a commando penis and some loose tracky bottoms.
Okay, well, Neil, if Johnny turns up at your garage in a a near MOT fail 850 with some extremely clunky suspension, then you better get in the sticker drawer and give him a couple more. But thank you, it's a very kind offer.
It is.
Although in fairness, we did promote their garage, so for all your Volvo needs on Anglesey and in North Wales.
Well, my good friend Nick, who lives not that far away, he's ordered in excess of 2 in the last 4 years.
You mean 3?
Yeah, I think it is 3. I just couldn't remember exactly, and so I didn't want to commit.
I mean, it's worth wearing that. Remembering, in excess of 2 could also mean 4 billion, but it's probably not that.
I think it's 3.
3 or 4.
So he's ordered, I'm guessing, 3 new Volvos from that garage, and has been very pleased indeed. I don't know why I'm qualifying it. I don't need to.
Oh, it's very siren-y out there, isn't it?
Isn't it? We could pretend that we're in 80s New York.
Oh, yeah.
No, we couldn't. It's different siren. Is it? Or is it? I can't remember.
Yes, it is, but it's more similar than if we were in 80s Britain, it would have been Nino style.
It'd be two-tone. Yeah. Of course.
So, continuing going through readers' messages.
What?
When we talked about Dad's cars, and particularly so this is from Matt Seymour. Hello, Matt. Who starts his message with "Dear Smith and/or Sniff," which I like. It's covering the bases. Richard's recent reminiscing about his dad's Solara Odyssey made me think listeners must have a wealth of comedy/terrifying stories about their parents' car insanity. This was when I was talking about my dad having to drive his Solara quite a distance, and it was jammed in what I think was second gear. It may have been
Solara
first.
Odyssey.
Solara Odyssey.
Just sounds like an amazing prog rock album.
Yeah, something you'd have seen on Whistle Test in the 70s.
So much smoking and nodding.
He says my dad also had a Toll, but an Alpine Minx. So my dad's replaced the jammed-in gear Solara with a Solara Minx.
If I was a ski instructor, I would have.
What, Alpine Minx?
I would have absolutely loved to have spent a little bit of time with an Alpine Minx at some point.
He says it was really exotic because it had a 5-speed gearbox to go with the sound of 1,000 angry sewing machines. He also had a Cortina that would never start. We called it the getaway car because of irony.
What? So hang on, he had a spare car?
Yeah, he had a Cortina that would never start. We called it the getaway car because of irony. Eventually, after he sold it, it was used as a getaway car in an armed robbery in Leeds. Now, that's irony.
It's so true.
Wow, that's an amazing...
Oh my gosh, it was born to be ironic.
Yeah. Then this is my favourite, though. There was also a Peugeot 504 that had an engine so sick. Once, when my dad stopped to fill it with petrol, a man screamed, "Stop!" from across the forecourt because he was convinced it was a diesel.
Oh, really?
That's so good.
What did he say? It's so sick.
It was so sick.
Engine
so it was
sick.
A petrol 504 that ran so badly that someone, a stranger, thought it was a diesel. He says the brakes also once apparently failed when we were on a fairly hairy downhill bendy road. My dad claimed it was just fade and everything was fine, but the car was sold shortly after. Matt's dad sounds like a bit of an operator. He says before I was around they had a DAF with Variomatic gears that was perpetually broken. They couldn't afford new rubber belts for the gearbox and their mechanic mate used to put second-hand belts on. I suspect they were from washing machines.
Do you know the number of families that had a not working DAF Variomatic in the 80s was huge? Because one of my brother's mates at primary school, his mum had one. I've mentioned it previous, and it was that black. No, it was yellow with black Go Faster stripes.
Yes,
Classic. Badged a Volvo then. And it basically, I reckon it worked. I reckon it worked about 40 days of the year. All the other days, she was just borrowing other people's cars because her husband used to work away as like a rep. So he had a brand new Belmont when they first came out. That was a good rep car, solid rep car.
Rep car.
Brand new Belmont next in session. And I quite like them.
What, the DAFs?
Yeah, but I think they're possibly...
Toss?
Yeah.
I remember going in some friends' grandmother's Volvo 340 with the same style gearbox, but I'd never been in a CVT before. And I remember thinking, even at quite a young age, but being into cars, I remember thinking, there's something wrong with this Volvo.
Yeah.
Why are the revs just going, but we seem to be accelerating, but the engine's jammed. It was such a weird experience. And then I think I cottoned on to the fact it had that twangy bandy sort of.
It's a bit
system.
like when if a DJ's fading one track into another, but doing it far too slowly.
Or, I messaged you about this, didn't I? That I was at the station and one of those local trains came in. I was waiting to get an intercity train, and one of those local trains came in, those diesel ones.
Yeah, I know
That
the ones.
sound like they're horribly slipping the clutch when they set off.
Is it like a two-carriage? Or
Yeah, two carriage, three tops. There's the
Yeah.
ones that sort of go from where I live. They sort of head off. I think you can get them into Wales and
They
places.
go to places that no one gives a shit about.
Well, I wasn't going to
gonna
be so
put-
harsh, but yeah,
I'm gonna put that out there.
the sort of smaller branch liney sort of trains.
Yeah.
But when they set off, they always do that. And you go, oh man. What did you
Just drop
drive
the
it as?
clutch.
It's
It
like
reminds
an
me
old
of
man.
it's an elderly person trying to back off their drive that's on a slight incline. So they're giving it way more revs than it needed, and it's usually cold. The engine's cold
Yeah.
when they do it. And you're using what? Every time you come off the drive, 3 years worth of clutch,
Yeah.
I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And those are precisely the people that don't need a Manuel. They need to go two pedal. Someone needs to have words with them.
Now, a chap called Tom Newton has sent us this. I know it's a while ago, but you were chatting about car manufacturers creating albums. I've spent a while finding this, but I'm sure that I got it in the late 80s, early 90s at the motor show. The rubbish we keep, hey? I'm going to show this to you. It's a picture of a CD. Feast your eyes on that.
Oh, whoa. What? Oh, Accent on Style by Hyundai. Oh, my gosh. Or
This
Hyundai.
is...
Or is it Hyundai? I've been corrected.
You've got to sound like one of those trains leaving a
Sounds like one of
station.
those slow trains. And it'll be like the clutch slipper from 1501, clutch slipper from Cambridge to Ely is about to depart. You'll hear it because the fucking thing's pulling out of the station for 1 minute 20 seconds.
So it's a
That's
Hyundai
amazing.
Accent on Style. The picture,
Oh.
library photo of a happy couple sitting outside a French cafe.
Do you know, I think we can date this because that is when we'll show you the photo. If you're a patron, we'll put it on the show notes and things. But the photo depicts a couple outside a cafe in a European country.
I think it's French, possibly Parisian. It's that quintessentially French cafe
Yeah.
chairs and table setup.
But do you not think this is in the 80s when a lot of people dressed as 50s people? I don't mean like properly 50s. I mean
Yeah,
influenced
faux
by-
50s. But
Yeah.
then also the French sort of have that slight enduring love affair with 50s Americana,
Yeah.
don't they? There's a lot of that.
But only
sort
the
of-
good bits. Not
Only the
shit.
good bit. Oh yeah, they cherry pick because
Yeah.
why would you?
So what? The constant smoking.
Yeah.
And the
It's just asbestos everywhere.
yeah.
That's perfectly good for you. Eat more.
Billie Holiday, Gloria Gaynor, Percy Sledge, James Brown, John Lee Hooker. Talking of James Brown, we must mention that
Oh my god!
that video I sent you.
How have we not mentioned that
On,
already?
was it like some national news
Yeah.
interview?
He's I
In
don't
the
know.
80s, was it early 80s?
I can't figure out if he's high or if he's just being James Brown. I think it's a little of both.
I
but
think he's. If he's not high in
Then-
that interview,
he's just high on being James Brown.
I say he's high. What was high? Obviously, past tense Brown. But it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He was eyes rollingly out there.
Just nuts. Well, again, we'll put a link up for patrons. But yes, the godfather of soil being interviewed on American news and just making no sense whatsoever. Yeah, it's 12. Also, I just noticed 12 classic tracks. And then...
Did I say Nina Simons?
Nina
Oh, no,
Simone.
Simone.
Nina Simons.
I was thinking they got it wrong.
Just-
No, it's Nina
you
Simons.
look closely, and these are all actually not the people you think they
Billy
are.
Vacation.
Yeah.
Percy Toboggan. Yeah, got him.
Ray Charles. Okay, yeah. So I thought that's a bit special, but also the fact that Tom's kept it for that long is.
Tom, why? I've got to ask because I'm a bit of a hoarder and I'm trying to cleanse. Why did you keep it? Was it genuinely good music? Because I have had that before. I had an album called, I think it was a petrol station album. It was called something like Emotionally Yours or High on Emotion.
What?
Yeah, and it had a picture of a rose on a floor, so like a dropped rose. on the ground.
Oh my God.
And it looked shit, but actually the music selection on it as a compilation were good, so I kept it for years. I might even still have it. I've still got all my CDs.
Well, you should dig it out.
On that side of things, Oliver.
Or you could give it away at the next live show.
I couldn't do that.
Oh, really? It's too
No,
precious.
I will do that. I need to do that. Yeah.
Another message here from Alan McPherson, who he listened
struts
to.
about.
Yeah, he's just
an absolute strutter.
The podcast where we talked about. You needed to dry out your element, and we were talking about doing like dangerous things with extension leads.
Yes.
Alan said, I was reminded of a method my dad used to make sure our Mini started in the winter when the conditions were cold and frosty. I'm guessing this is the mention of Dad and Mini. I'm guessing originally. In fact, his engine title is Engine Heating on an Original Mini, so we know it's an old school Mini.
I'm now worried about how dangerous the next few sentences are going to be.
Well, let me tell you. We used to park the car on the road by our house, and my dad put one of those old 1 kilowatt single bar electric heaters out of the window on an extension and placed it under the engine.
What?
It was just the right size to fit snugly, and he'd leave it on for 30 minutes or so before trying to start the car. His idea was it would nicely warm the engine and dry out the electrics. And to be fair, it almost seemed to do the trick.
But how much did it cost him in electricity?
In retrospect, it probably wasn't the safest thing to do, Alan concludes, especially as the engine was a bit leaky with oil.
What? How long's the extension lead as well?
Well, it's hard to know the layout of the house, isn't it? Because I suppose if you lived like on, say, kind of terrace street with just front door pavement road, not too long. If you lived in a sort of large suburban house, garden,
we're talking
pavement
50
road,
metre.
yeah,
50 metre.
I mean, you could daisy chain them, I suppose, for extra danger.
You cannot, not with a 1 bar or even more than 1 bar fire.
Imagine. As a note, Alan also says another trick that his dad has was when the throttle cable on the Mini snapped, we were out, so he got an old square nail with which he managed to jam open the throttle connection on the SU carb, meaning it was revving at around 3,000 RPM. We had to dip the clutch to stop and got some strange looks at traffic lights, but did get the 15 miles or so home. He used to moan that modern cars couldn't do that and were therefore useless.
Can you imagine how hot under the collar the Mini was going to be with its sideways radiator?
Well, he wouldn't need to use the heater after that because the engine would have been hot for about 6 weeks afterwards. But yeah, that's so.
I know it's an older person thing to say, but younger people have no idea how shonky car life used to be.
Yeah.
We're not talking like, oh, I've got a classic. It's just, no, I can't afford a more modern car, so I've got to live with this.
Well, there's a difference, isn't there? You go, there's a show I want to go to, so I'm going to get my classic going.
Yeah.
It's sort of your choice, and if all else fails, you've probably got a modern car to go places. But this is life or death, or at least work or get sacked.
Like our dads.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I mean, my parents' cars were like that.
Also, our dads both had the benefit of being engineers, so at least they had some sense of maybe what they were doing. But imagine if you weren't, and you didn't, you couldn't get to a garage, you couldn't afford to take it to a garage, but you had to get around.
Well, that's when you learn.
I suppose
quickly.
You had to learn, yeah.
You had to learn quickly because cars were a bit cack. But I mean, like, I don't understand the whole. I'll go back to that Mini. I don't understand about the heating up the engine thing for it to start better. You just make the ignition better because that's what makes it start. I mean, a stronger spark.
Was he using some sort of incredibly thick oil, like sort of
straight 50?
Yeah, that stuff that they used to fuel cargo ships,
cruise ships
at sea. Yeah, that's so you could just stand it up in a block. So
I don't.
He had to because the sump would have been.
It's like a Christmas pudding, like old Christmas pudding that bakes onto the bowl when you've left it on the draining board.
Exactly that.
Oh, goodness.
John Holroyd is on the same theme. He says, talking of heating garages via extension leads and fan heaters reminded me of an extreme instance of this a few years ago. When living in Poland in the early 2000s, I was trudging down the street on a dark winter evening and almost tripped on a cable laying on the pavement. On closer inspection, I realised that the cable led from the front door of an apartment building to an aged Volvo 240 DL estate.
Oh, sweet.
A sweet car.
Sweet car.
An orange glow emanated from within the cabin, which warranted further inspection. I was staggered to see an ancient 3-bar heater on full blast in the passenger footwell.
What? Is it thawing it out?
I don't know. Well, John says whether this was a temporary remote heating device to get the car warmed up for the owner's evening shift, or was left on all night, I will never know. It was too cold to hang around to find out. But it does beg a lot of questions.
It begs an awful... It could have been a scenario like me with the Honda, where it's a bit damp, and you have on-street parking in that instance. It was bloody annoying.
If it's early 2000s, and it was an aged Volvo 240, it's probably, at an age where seals could have gone, still got a screen with a gasket and stuff like that, where it's just going to piddle water into the footwells if you let it, isn't it? So, could be. I don't know.
Too faulty. You should have taken it to the garage with a really long name in Wales. It's a very easy journey from Poland. You just get on the
I mainly came for the stickers. Sorry, we've run out.
You think about it, though, in Poland, they stopped making the little Maluch Fiat 126 in 2000. So, I mean,
what?
I don't know. I don't have another line after.
Oh, I see. I thought there was a point.
I'm just thinking out loud
reminiscing about Polish things.
There'd still be an awful lot of cars that were basically 70s.
Oh yeah.
I mean, a 240 was basically 70s as well.
Although someone I was talking to in Poland once told me that once the Poland was sort of freed from communism, that people couldn't wait to get rid of Soviet-era cars.
Yeah.
So there's no affection for them. There's not as much affection, sort of cars here from the 70s, 80s, whatever, really. Old cars someone cares about them.
Yeah.
But everyone in Poland, it was like they were a symbol of something they wanted to turn their back on. So there aren't many around. It's very rare to find an FSO Bolognese or something, because everyone just wants to throw the fuckers in the bin.
Yeah, I miss my Polski Fiat.
Do you?
Yeah, I regret.
It was a sweet car.
It was sweet, lovely.
The brakes could have.
Oh, the brakes were absolutely dismal.
But apart from that, now, well, this is I was going to reply to this one privately, but I thought I will do it on the show instead. This is from Justin Pierce.
Oh, he's not got spots on his winky, has he?
Yeah, it's one of those.
Okay.
I think because
he emailed the wrong show, didn't he? That's what he said.
He's Dr. Smith and Dr. Sniff.
Yes.
He says, me and my buddy are the writers for our own comedy automotive website, which is called Misshift Into My Ass.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Misshift
into my ass.wordpress.com.
I'm going to have to look at that.
Feel free to take a look around at what we've done so far. Anyway, we've noticed the satire articles and general great sense of humour from your duo, and it poses the question, how do we reach an audience? We're both engineers doing this in our free time, but we really enjoy writing these articles, and we're more or less the only people who see it. The dream is to write/talk to an actual audience. Any leads for us newbies?
Misshift Into My Ass.
Yeah.
So ASS, so American spelling.
Yeah, it's from Justin and Andrew.
Okay.
Who's also known as Monty for some reason. I don't know why. Perhaps he has a Montego.
Oh, he definitely does.
But
I don't know what advice I can possibly give.
Except I mean, I might start by changing the name of the website. It sounds slightly off-putting.
Bit fetish.
Yes. I don't. Am I missing something? Is it a reference to something else?
Misshift.
Misshift would be a name for a website. I'm sure it's taken already.
Yeah.
Was it, in fact, they went, let's register Misshift. Oh, it's taken. Well, what can we do? Just add something to the end of it. Into my ass?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
It's absolutely perfect.
I was actually going to go with Torque Curve, but that's taken as well. So what about Torque Curve Into My Ass?
Torque Curve Out of My Ass?
Ah, that'd be good. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh.
I nearly bought Ass Seen on Screen once. I tried to buy it, and someone had already bought it. I was pissed.
Ass Seen on Screen?
Yeah, so when Ass Seen on Screen, now ASOS, the big company, when that first launched, I just thought As Seen on Screen might be a really good new adult hub that I could sell in 5 years' time.
It just records... Hang on, wasn't this the plot to a film?
What, As Seen on Screen?
No, but I was going to say it just records instances of when someone gets their arse out. But wasn't that a gag in Knocked Up, the film, where what's his name plays a slacker, and one of his housemates is setting up a website that just details with time codes when nudity occurs in films.
I've never even heard of this.
Knocked Up was...
Who was it?
Kristen Wiig, I want to say. No, it's not. It was her who's married to Judd Apatow. It's a Judd Apatow movie. Let's not get bogged down in that.
I'm lost.
Anyway, maybe that's where I were wrong, though.
Here's where I'm at, Richard.
Here's where I'm at.
I don't know.
I'm confused. Oh, there's all this. Maybe that's... But I should have called my website Sniff Petrol Into My Ass.
Yeah, or blow it.
Yeah, blow petrol up my ass. Yeah. The Stevie Nicks car satire website.
Rooster Tail Petroleum Into My Jacksie. It's a great site.
My only bit of advice would be maybe look at the name. I don't know. It's a bit odd, but then it's memorable, I suppose.
Yeah,
we've said it several times by accident on this. But then the only advice I could say is just keep at it. It's a war of attrition, really.
It is. And sound bites, you can always lure people in, which is why I guess these sorts of the world of TikTok and YouTube shorts and everything that's a bit short and quick. Something that's quotable. Get some funny quips out there and then attach your name to it at some point, and then people will remember it, like Richard said, and then go in. But I mean, really, I don't know, because it is a bit of a sort of like fishing game. You cast your rod into the pond, and something may or may not bite. And one day it might be a fucking huge fish. Other times it might be an old boot, or a stolen car, or an old safe with some knives in it.
So fucking huge fish up my ass, old boot up my so versatile, isn't it? You can add it to almost anything.
I like this. I like this website buying procedure. I'm down with it.
James Tregellis.
Oh, that's a Cornish camping lot.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Tregellis, or it's a town in Cornwall.
It's always a TRE something.
Yeah. Have you been to Tregellis Beach? Yes, it's very nice.
Oh, it's secluded.
It's quite busy in the summer.
That one's the secluded.
They do that thing. We talked about this before on the podcast with people, because I kind of almost refuse to go to Cornwall because it's just such an arse-ache to get there.
We used to say that when I lived in Somerset.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, I live in the West Country now, technically.
You're near,
but I still go, oh my
there.
God, no, I can't face it. But then people go, oh no, we go every summer. It's no problem at all. You simply get up at 2 a.m. and you get on the road, and with the following wind, you will be there in 9 or 10 hours. It's really simple. And it's like, but you live in Exeter, and that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah, it's a shit idea.
Tregellis Beach is a place I'll never go. But James Tregellis has sent us a message. He says, I was clearing out some paperwork, stumbled across the attached grainy pictures of my very first car. Feast your eyes on that, Johnny.
Hang on, what's this? What, is that a Suzuki Baleno?
No, that is a Daihatsu Charade Saloon. Oh, that's right.
Oh, with the last one
it's had an incident.
Is that a Charade Saloon?
Yeah.
I didn't even know they made them.
Incredible rarity. Well, James explains a little bit about this. He says, I never realised what a weird thing it was. Full leather interior, 4 tiny electric windows and sunroof, all of which could be opened and closed via remote control.
What?
And also note the tiny boot spoiler. Who specified leather seats on this tiny weird saloon? Why could you have a hatchback with 1.3 or 1.6 litre engine, but saloons only came with a 1.5?
What?
It's very strange.
It just sounds like you're making it up.
I bought this from a local dealer when I was 17 and promptly wrote it off a day after my 18th birthday.
No way.
That's the crash pic explained.
Hang on a minute. So remote control sunroof?
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of those ones maybe you could hold down if you had a remote fob, you could hold down the buttons like you can on a lot of cars, hold down the lock, unlock, and it would do all that. Global opening, they call it, don't they? But
I quite like that. My brother used to love that with the Passats.
Anyway, we outed him by saying his full name. He signs this email Treg, but before he signs off, he said, I wondered what the most bizarre spec car you have ever encountered is. Extra points for the car being mundane. All the best, Treg. Oh. Well.
Oh no, here we go.
No, but funny enough, Jonathan, who very kindly set up our live show at the Car Barn, used to be an Alfa Fiat salesman. And he was telling me about, do you remember in the UK there was a ProDrive Brera?
Yes.
You remember?
Yes.
Was it called the Brera S, I think?
Yeah, I do remember that.
And they were Breras. It was a
quaint
V6,
car.
I think, was it it had a 2 litre? Maybe it had both. I'm going to misremember this now. Sorry, John.
Yeah, because it was front-wheel drive V6, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah.
That's right. So, but it was the ProDrive modifications were done once the car had arrived in the UK.
Right. Okay.
So what they used to do is order a V6 with, I think, some options on, but the smallest wheels possible because they were going to replace them.
They were going to bin them. Yeah.
And then the idea of doing this ProDrive one, it didn't sell very well, so they decided to stop doing it. But they'd already ordered another batch of V6 Breras with small wheels on them, which were then broadly unsaleable because they looked like shite. And
the gearing was ultra low because they were on 12-inch wheels. Brilliant.
So that's quite a good weird spec, but a weird spec with a backstory.
I like that. I like that.
But
I guess like in the olden days, a bit like police spec cars, they would have probably ordered those.
Good segue, because this brings me to another message from a chap called Ed Holness, who we were talking about BMW ceasing to supply police cars in the UK.
Yes.
But quite a lot of messages
and
about
having
this.
blocks drilled through, which still makes me chuckle.
It's nuts, isn't it? There's a load. I didn't put a link to this. I think Brightwells, is it the auction people? Auction people have got a bunch of ex-police at the moment, X5s, 5 Series, 3 Series. They're all 330s, 530s. And, they even try and put a badly taken photo of the engine. You're sort of looking at, what am I looking at here? And then you can see, sometimes you can see swarf where they've...
No.
Yeah.
They've just
drilled through the block.
You've saying auction, you've just reminded me to say hello to our New Zealand listeners. Because apparently they say auction.
Do they?
Yeah. So it's not just people from the sort of West Midlands.
I bought a sofa last week from...
New Zealand?
Yeah. It's shipping costs.
Did you borrow a friend's Previa to go and get it?
No, I think buying something from New Zealand, you have to buy a sort of really interesting JDM estate that you can't get here, because they like JDM.
What's the thing with the twin rear wipers?
Oh, there's a few. They were a bit like a Toyota...
or Mazda 929.
Yes, a Toyota Crown Estate, and there's a few of those. And I think... What was the last one that came here that had twin wipers? Did the Camry Estate? Yeah.
Camry Estate.
So the what was I saying? Oh yes, so the sales lady in the sofa shop was from New Zealand, and she said cushions in a really extraordinary way.
Like what?
I can't do it. That's the thing. She said it, and I almost want to go. Could you say that again?
Cushions. Cushions.
New Zealand is a hard accent to do, isn't it? People often just sort of do a lazy Aussie sort of, and it's not.
It's not. It's clupped. It's very clupped.
Very different.
Yeah,
that's
very
South African, isn't it? Sorry, New Zealand listeners.
I've got to go to New Zealand at some point.
It's so nice.
I've heard it's amazing.
It's so nice, and the people are so nice. And I like New Zealand a lot. I'd love to go back. It's just quite far away, isn't it? But
well, it is, Richard.
But that's probably what makes it nice.
Well, it could be.
Keeps the twats away.
Well, I would be one of the few British people going to New Zealand who isn't interested in going to any of the locations where Star Wars was filmed.
Eh?
I think Star Wars was filmed in New Zealand.
It's Lord of the Rings, isn't it?
Oh, all right. Yeah, that one. Another one I'm not interested in.
So, I don't want to see any Star Wars locations. Well, it's okay because there aren't any.
What about Lord off of the Rings?
Lord out of the Rings.
Imagine if the next one was just going Lord off of the Rings. How many headlines in magazines and stuff to do with Audis and the Nürburgring?
Oh, what?
Have used Lord of the Rings or Lord of Rings.
It's that, or it's when something sets a new Nürburgring lap record. Lord of the Ring gets dusted off by
Ringleader.
Ring
ding-a-ding.
Ring piece.
There's a few of those.
What were we saying?
Piece.
Oh yeah. Anyway, no. So
4-piece ringer.
BMW police cars.
Yeah.
Ed Holness has. Well, he makes 2 points. He was curious about why this relationship has been ended now, because he points out that the N57 engine, which is the root of all these issues, was replaced years ago. The B57 was introduced in 2015, the B57 TU in 2020, and the last N57 cars came out in about 2020. So modern cars are not a problem. It's just the relationship broke down for how it was dealt with rather than the engine itself, which is a fair point. But I also wonder if the police went, you've got to prove to us this new engine doesn't do the same thing, and BMW just kind of went,
we can't.
We're not going to That's an engineering project.
Yeah.
You can't just go, hey, Heinz, you pretend to be a British policeman for a day with that 330 of yours, and then go, yeah, it's fine. That's like they'd have to sort of do some kind of,
Well, they could type onto a rolling road simulation software which simulated a pair of police officers doing what they would do in Coventry, and they just go, right, so how long are you in this lay-by-four idling? About 35 minutes. Right.
What? Okay.
And what's the setting of the air conditioning or the heating? It's about that.
It's cold in Coventry that day.
Yeah, and how many Bluetooth devices have you got going at any moment?
That's it. It's sort of parameters, aren't they? They couldn't do it with a normal 360. They have to go, hang on a minute. So we've got to do the police spec one, with all the kit on it, because then there's going to be extra loads on the alternator and whatever, just to make sure it's realistic. And then what? And then full throttle, because we're chasing some crims. Oh yeah, right, okay. Do you know what? We can't be arsed with this. No, we're BMW. Fuck off. We've got better things to do.
What about if I'm thinking? We talked a while ago about neutral slamming in auto boxes, which is just a satanic activity.
But it's drive slamming.
Oh, it's what, reverse slamming or drive slamming?
Well, it's just anything that changes, just where it feels like metal is meeting metal in a really aggressive way. Yeah, jolty.
I'm thinking
neutral's okay, I think.
Picture this: the root of all of this evil is because BMWs are sitting idling for a long amount of time in neutral rather than P. I don't know why. It's closer to D for a pursuit situation. But what happens is when a car goes past at 100 miles an hour and the police suddenly go, shit, follow that car. They press the gas before putting it into D.
Oh, yeah, I bet they do.
It's already at 4.5 thou, and then it's slapped into D, and that does something naughty in the trans.
That's jolty.
There'll be a listener who goes, actually wouldn't do anything. Be absolutely fine.
Well, yeah, they will, because our listeners are clever and they know all sorts. So this is the thing that Ed pointed out in his message, is that because the relationship between BMW and the police has come to an end and has possibly been sort of in decline for quite a while now, there have recently been a few nearly new 3 and 5 series in Bogo police spec that have ended up for sale on Auto Trader.
Oh, nice!
Because he says, I guess they're cancelled orders, and he sent a link to one of them, and it's fascinating because it actually says in the ad, surplus to requirements, and it's got 660 miles on it, but it's a 330D, but with cloth seats.
Yeah.
And it's base spec. It's not M Sport. It's just Sport, which is now the basic 360. In fact, I looked this up.
This could be the best 330 about.
Well, it's certainly appealing.
Yeah.
That's a no-nonsense kind of car. I mean, it's almost a bit sort of, the way that you used to be able to in the US, sort of those order codes where you put biggest engine in lowest spec car. It's a muscle car. It's a German muscle car.
Base trim, biggest output. Put them together.
So there's 660 miles on it. So it's essentially a new car. But
I'd like to know if that weighs less, because typically base spec there's less shit in there.
Well, it's also because it's base spec. It's on the smallest wheel. So it's got to weigh less than it could if it was loaded up with shite and things.
So what are we thinking? Composite doors, composite bonnet and boot, and then put it on 15-inch forged wheels with some beautiful sticky rubber.
Yeah.
And look what you've got. You've got yourself a ring leading saloon.
Ring smashing.
Yeah. Smasher of the rings. Perfect.
No, actually, funny enough, since we just briefly touched on Alfa Breras, a chap called Jace.
It's a pretty car, that.
It is, but they were so disappointing.
I know, they're just good to look at.
Well, this is sort of where Jace is going with his message. He says, I was wondering what dodgy old car you would like to resurrect with a full resto mod. Yeah. I was talking with an old friend the other week, and our conversation turned to motors. I admitted that the Alfa Brera, when it was launched, was the greatest looking car I'd ever seen, besides the Aston Zagato, that is. There was no way I was going to get one, given the historic reputation of Alfa. But money no object. Today, I'd love to find one and send it off to Alfaholics.
Oh, what, and make it the car it should have been?
Well, yeah. Imagine that, a completely sorted Brera as it should have been. That's what Chase says. Beautiful styling and no concerns over rust, electricals or mechanicals.
It's a flipping great idea.
It's a great idea. It's also because resto mods sort of tend to be at the moment 60s, 70s stuff probably predominantly, don't they? But a 90s or 2000s resto mod.
It's a cool idea.
So immediately
still a fairly simple car in terms of ECU-ness and wiring loom complexity. I'm down with that. Okay, so think of a 90s or / early. So it's got to be 20 years old or more, really. So Millennium is the cut-off.
Yeah.
What would you go for? A good-looking car that's ultimately disappointing. That's what you're looking for.
Well, on that, because I was going to say Mark 1 MR2, because they're a bit rotty, aren't they?
They are a bit rotty.
But if you could have one with a brand new shell,
yes,
Golvet, and then just sort of, I don't want loads of power, but just a nice engine in it, and just a few mod cons. I just think that's so high. But talking of good-looking cars that were a bit disappointing, I gather I've never driven one. The second generation MR2, that's a nice-looking car, an underrated-looking car.
I think it's my favourite-looking Mr. 2.
Yeah,
I prefer it to the Mark 1.
I do as well, looks-wise. Yeah,
and I loved it when the aftermarket snorkels.
Yes,
they're like periscopes. I think they called them periscope intakes. They look really good. Look purposeful. On Max Power, we used to feature. They loved them in Ireland.
Really,
they always went for the JDM turbo versions, which we never got. I don't think.
No.
And they went for the twin snorkel or periscope, whatever. And they used to wind them up on the remapping them. Giving them a really good remap.
Because I liked, and they were sort of lesser spotted, but that shape of MR2. Do you remember there was a base model that didn't have the rear wing on it?
Yeah.
And it was just then it was suddenly very, very pretty. It was just quite simple. But then they tend to come with quite small wheels, and it had the sort of least exciting engine in it. But actually, as a shape,
base model,
saucy.
Base model 300 ZX, the Fair Lady. That didn't have any spoilers, and I think it's a prettier car.
Definitely.
Sweet car.
See, again, they're quite nice looking, but a bit cack. You could do good things with that. I mean, also you've got space for a straight 6 in there, so you could put all sorts of shit.
Fucking 2JZ, mate.
Oh yeah.
Although it's crossing the streams, Nissan and Toyota.
That's true.
People don't care anymore, seemingly.
Do they not?
I don't know. I would.
Well,
says the guy putting a Civic Type R engine in an Allegro.
Maybe that's it. I could have my Mark 1 MR2 sliced down the middle and widened so it could take a straight 6 crossways like a Princess.
What's a great idea.
Or a Freelander.
Yeah, the idea of putting shit engines, older engines in more modern cars. People have done it.
Thoughtless resto mods.
Oh, it's just khaki devolution resto mods, isn't it? There's a few about, and it just makes me confused.
I found one of the, whatever it was, 12 Panther Solos they ever made. But I've had it rebuilt with a Volvo 5-cylinder out of an 850 in it for no reason whatsoever. No, not the turbo, the diesel.
Yeah. The thrifty one. I want some thrift. Give me some thrift, for crying out loud. Oh, yeah, it's like someone. Oh yeah, I've bought a salvaged, flood damaged, full spec Range Rover that's 6 years old, but I can't afford to run it. So I've taken the whole drivetrain out of it, and it's now front-wheel drive 3-cylinder turbo. But it looks completely the same as any other Range Rover.
Yeah, put a K-series that have a crashed Metro into it. It's fine, it moves.
Fine. Yeah.
Just
Front-wheel
front-wheel drive.
drive.
Because the prop shaft was wet from the flood damage, so I had to throw it away.
It's just saving weight. Superleggera Range Rover.
Yeah. What else?
I told you that idea of doing a P38 drift car. I had one not that long ago, about 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Somebody did this, didn't they? They made not a P38. I think it was a 322 track car.
Did they?
Yeah. It's on piston heads.
Did they take the chassis off it and put it on something else? Did they put a body on?
Well, because they're monocoque by then, so they just dropped it. They dropped it and stripped the interior.
So it's like a real heavy diet car.
Yeah. Basically, but then I think they sort of lowered it, or they tricked. I think one of the guys involved in the project was a Land Rover engineer, or used to be, so he knew his way around some of the guts and bits of that car. And I think they did something where they tricked the air suspension to go into access mode permanently.
Oh, wow.
So it was dropped onto the floor,
stiff,
for less roll. And there's some. I'll have to find it and try and put a link up.
You could put plexiglass windows in, so the centre of gravity's lower.
Yeah,
it's quite a fun project.
I have this feeling that one of the people involved did email us a long time ago, possibly when we were still doing videos. So if you did and you're out there, I do apologise, and please get in touch again.
Wasn't that Land Rover Discovery rally car, was it? That rings a bell. Someone put an M3 engine in a Discovery 2.
Oh, yes. Is there a clip of it doing a hairpin where it just tail out? Yes.
And of course, it is a BMW to here. And then you open your eyes and you go, oh, it looks like an XAA Recovery Discovery. It's just an amazing. That is quite a cool project.
Yeah,
it's daft. No, it's no logic to it.
No, but I like it. Endearingly daft, isn't it? That's what I like about it. I like silliness. That was what did I see the other day? I just went, I like that because it's silly, and I can't remember what it was.
Was it one of the monthly times that I email you a link to a Buddhist hearse? Yes. or okay. What's the other thing I used to find a lot? Mitsuoka Vutes.
Yes, but I feel like one day I will accidentally buy a Mitsuoka Vute because I find them amusing.
We have to have and we've got to be, B-side Inspector Morse.
Well, now, speaking of this, a chap called James emailed us and said, I found the ideal vehicle for Johnny on Facebook Marketplace.
Oh, shit, here we go.
I won't say what it is, he's described it, but he said, even the wheels are cool. Hopefully all the automatics are like my parents' one. I can remember being my parents' Auto Carlton towing a trailer to Avon Park, and my dad laughing at the fog of automatic transmission being burnt that the car left behind on hills.
He was laughing about that.
I think probably transmission fluid, I guess. Anyway, feast your eyes on this.
Well, let's have a look
Ba-ding.
Oh, okay, so it's a hearse, Carlton, Vauxhall Carlton Estate, or Eagle Quest. The thing they were made.
Is that what they were? Eagle Quest,
which sounds like we were talking about old computer games the other week. It does sound. It really is. It's an 8-bit. It's an 8-bit computer game where obviously you have to do some sort of daring mission. That looks really Minecrafty. Like a clueless child has Minecrafted it.
Yeah, it's so for the listeners, it is an Eagle Quest, we think, Vauxhall Carlton based hearse, but somebody has
cut the roof from the waist up off
and made it a pickup
and moved it forward.
But yeah, that is the original tailgate panel, isn't it? So it has a ludicrously high back window just behind the passenger compartment, and then a sort of. It's very strange.
Small pickup bed. I think I'm going to say that in order for that window to seal, there'd be so much of that gloop. What's that? The sealant gloop.
Oh yeah. Well, look, you can see
Tiger
in the pickup
seal.
Bed, look, I think they've cut what would have been the wooden shelf, or the floor, the high floor that
Paul
the coffin
bearers,
sits
whatever
on,
it is. Yeah.
And they've just cut through it, and it looks.
Shit.
Terrible.
I think I do like the Eagle Quest. I have to say, I've got.
But not butchered.
No
like
one
that.
has been bow-sword like that.
I don't think you need that in your life necessarily.
That's dog mud. I ain't got time for that. But thanks for sending it to us.
Yes,
it's much appreciated. Who sent that to us?
That was a chap called James. He doesn't give us a name.
So it's just James. Should we read out his email address? Right.
Sam signs off. Sam in Wiltshire. Sam, he heard me talking about when was this? Like 3 or 4 weeks ago. Dual control cock-ups, which
that was good.
Brother's story about the bag on the brake
trail
pedal of a dual
braking
control Defender. So Sam is a firefighter. I assume he is, because he says, I was driving a spare fire engine, brackets Dennis Saber, if you're interested.
Oh, he's an old school musician.
Dennis Saber.
Yeah. He's a magician.
Yes. I don't know, or is he?
He's Blackpool Seafront magician in the heyday.
Was I saying to you the other week that when you get on transatlantic flights, there's always a man going into sort of business class who looks like he might be a rock star, but he's old and you can't place him because he's always got a leather hat on.
Does have a leather hat.
And
they're the mystery shopper on all aeroplanes.
Yeah, but they just go, this guy looks. And there was one when we came back from America.
Yeah.
There were 2 of them getting on the flight, and sure enough, they turned left and went into club.
Do you think they were old school musicians?
Well, it was the guy who fitted the exact profile of aging rock star, but clearly got a few quid because he's going up the pointy end, but don't recognise him at all. Maybe he is though. Could you identify the guitarist from Pantera? But actually, maybe
he's dead.
Oh well, then I hope he's not getting up. But he was with a woman, and he was with a classic rock aging rock star's wife lady.
And what did she look like? Please.
Peroxide and a lot of jewellery and a Rolex, I noticed.
Oh, so. She would have gone heavy on bangles.
Bangles.
What, lots of Stevie Nicks
It probably took a half an hour to go through security because she had the bangle removal took a long time and some goose fat to get them all off.
Well, you can't talk about goose fat without plugging the new Smith & Sniff merchandise, Richard.
Good link.
In fact, you've got one. You might have. In fact, you do an unboxing because they're really good when there's no visuals. Do a descriptive unboxing.
I've got a bag for life here. Johnny.
This is the hacking first time Richard's seen the flesh.
Okay, so this is because this I think is the star of our new merch lineup. This design will be on t-shirts shortly, but for now. It'll do this all day mugs. It's a static engine.
Yeah.
With it'll do this all day written underneath.
Big flywheel.
Lovely mug with Smith & Sniffer on the other side. These are nice.
Yeah, two-tone mug. Yeah, the quality's good, I think. Yeah, we're pleased with it.
It's lovely. This is the reason we need to. It's a hard design to print on t-shirts, apparently. So we're looking for someone who can.
But it'll do this all day. I'm at some point. I'm going to have to drag you to a steam rally, and hopefully, I'm not looking forward to seeing men of a certain age ladling goose fat onto. I don't know, fast friction surfaces.
And the couple of we got sports t-shirt. We've got a white one here. We also do a black one, lovely 80s sports style typeface. And then on that side of things, also nice retro-y typeface on black or white t-shirts and more t-shirt colours. To come.
Well, and the OG as well, if you just want a Smith & Sniff logo, we've probably got some of those kicking about as well. Keep that the classic collection.
So
they're classic.
Sam says he was driving his Dennis Sabre from my station back to where he lived normally. It was about rush hour and I had a bag on the front seat. After hitting the brakes at a roundabout, the sirens inexplicably came on. You can see where this is going.
What's he got in the bag?
This was a problem, as it was quite naughty, but no issue. I hit the pedal to turn them off. It didn't work. I was very much shitting myself at this point, especially as people were moving out of the way.
Of course they were.
It's quite hard, isn't it? You can't go, no, don't get out of my way, and you can't not get out. You can't go, no, I'm not going through that gap. Well, because then they'll go.
You put the window down in the car and go, is this for real?
Yeah. What are you doing? My only choice was to ditch it at the side of the road and hit the isolator switch, which cut power to everything. I sat for a bit and then switched it back on, hoping the turn it off and back on again trick had worked. An amusing wail of sirens said no. I sat a while longer contemplating an embarrassing phone call before I worked out that my bag had fallen off the passenger seat onto the second siren pedal on that side. This meant that in rush hour on this side had to reconnect the electricity, make an undignified run around the front of the truck, get in the cab and hit the pedal, all while the siren was sounding. Not the highlight of my career. I didn't know they had pedals for the siren.
Well, that was going to be my question. I've never seen... So, like an electric guitar player, you've got foot pedals for the different effects.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Is that the passenger's job, not the driver's
job? Well, no, because from what he's saying, it sounds like... He says, I hit the pedal to turn them off, so there must be a pedal on the driver's side.
Yeah.
But his bag had fallen onto the pedal on the passenger side, so it's a two-pedal system, I guess. So
I bet some drivers don't want to be fussed with that. They're focusing on the drive. So it's like a co-driver job.
It's a co-driver job, isn't it? But I guess sometimes if you just want to do a little, then you'd want to have control.
Any firefighters who listen to this stupid podcast, if you could clarify, because I'm just keen to know.
We must have more firefighters listening because they sit around a lot and they're quite bored and they'll need to fill time, and when you get desperate, this kind of shit will be the kind of thing you might turn to. I don't know.
I love that.
Quickly, we should wrap this up soon, but we were talking about Tartras a couple of weeks ago.
And ever since I've been looking of you, it's
and there's frustratingly few available for sale.
There are.
Fantasise about, but a chap called Emil Falk in Sweden says Johnny looking into getting a Czech air-cooled barge will no doubt get the immediate approval of former Swedish Conservative Party Prime Minister and later Foreign Minister Carl Bildt.
Ooh.
Bildt spent a lot of time on diplomatic missions in Eastern Europe and has famously said, the world is never more beautiful than when viewed through the rear windows of a Tatra.
Oh, I did not know this. Carl Bildt.
Carl Bildt, Swedish politician, was a Tatra enthusiast.
Oh, shit. So that's another reason for me to emigrate to Scandinavia.
You're just racking up.
I'm just
reasons.
I am.
reasons
to emigrate off of Scandinavia.
Luke Brown said he was when you were talking about the Doom Blue Mercedes ML guy with the art gallery in your local town
with the shapeless blazer.
Yes, shitting heck! I forgot to tell you.
What?
Last week, because I was having a pop. Well, not a poppy, but I was mocking the fact that you clearly live in quite what I described as a bougie town.
Yes,
because they've got art galleries. Well, I realised, of course, I live in fucking Bath/Bath. I was like,
no.
I drove down.
Yeah.
There's a street that's got at least one gallery on it, a sort of little arty street.
Yeah,
and there was a man in a Volvo S70, so the 850 shape, but later. So like the saloon one.
Yeah.
So you don't see him around so much because most people seem to buy the estates. Green. Low green, so good.
Of course. Country Pursuits green.
Country Pursuits green. So it's a surprise it wasn't the estate, but maybe the guy's allergic to Labradors or something. So
he's a saloon loyalist.
Maybe. But trying to come out of a space. So I was like, I'll just let him out. Because he's already sort of nudged out a little bit and he clearly couldn't quite see. Yeah. So stopped, let him out. Came out. As he's coming out, he then dropped the driver's window so that he could put his arm out and give me a big wave, but this allowed me to also see his face. And he was the most ruddy-faced old money man you've ever seen. And I swear he was wearing a gilet.
Oh my gosh, he could be the brother or the cousin of the guy I saw.
Well, maybe. This is the thing. I just thought, I wonder if he owns an art gallery. Yeah, art gallery guy. But it's like oldish car, but in good nick, by the way.
Okay, so not ruined like the ML.
No, it didn't seem to be. And I wouldn't. Well, it was kind. I suppose it was kind of doom green. It was just like it was full countryside. doom green sounds different. He used to present talent shows in the 60s. It was a really. I just thought, but he was so sort of just like ruddy faced, but in that kind of way where it's just
that's
like
3 good quality of red
wine.
meat a day.
Yeah. That's red meat, red wine, and a green Volvo.
And gout for dinner.
Anyway, and by the way, sorry, I should say a couple of people wrote in about me saying bougie.
Yeah, I'd never heard it apart from in that Beyonce song.
Dudley Allen says, I heard Richard talking about the American use of bougie. Surprise, surprise, I have some thoughts. Bougie is the Turkish word for spark plug.
What?
Derived, as many modern Turkish words are, from the French bougie d'Allemagne. Is that right?
Allemagne.
Bougie d'Allemagne. Is that a spark plug-in? Anyway.
Wow, Turkish spark plug.
Yeah, so... he doesn't actually...
I think that's my favourite letter so far.
It just doesn't... I'm going to have to look this up. Because...
You Turkish spark plug.
And now I've lost somebody else. This is embarrassing.
That's a sort of like... Danny
reasonably organised. Oh yeah, Ewan, E-W-Y-N, Ewan Bruniger. Sorry,
Ewan.
Anyway, he's American. He says bougie is our ignorant American way of not pronouncing the French term bourgeois.
Oh,
which I think someone else pointed this out.
Right, I did not know this. My knowledge of bougie was
it's
so low. I need to hang around with your wife more.
Anyway, Luke Brown, who I was going to read out the message from, he was talking about the Doom Blue ML guy. He said he reminds me of a guy who drove a 1995 Jag XJ, which was an absolute heap, had no straight panels, and wouldn't pass the NCT, the Irish MOT. But he looked very rough and unclean. However, he was an accomplished artist and would hand-deliver his art pieces.
In it?
In it, yeah, I guess so. I saw the car one day and it was identical to what Johnny saw inside the ML.
Wow, this is brilliant. So hang on, again, an artist possibly delivering large pieces of work, canvases, etc. in a saloon, not in an estate or a van.
The ML I can see, but yeah, sliding
it onto the back seat,
sliding a canvas into the big format canvas into the back of a 95. That's an
XJ40.
Could be it would be very late. Actually, it's more likely a X300.
Okay,
I'm pushing my pretend glasses up my nose.
Okay,
and but either way. Same body shell, basically.
Yeah,
so that's a hard... Because do you remember... I don't think you were there. I went to that event. There was an evening celebrating the life of Ayrton Senna, and they had a panel where it included like Manish Pandey, who produced and wrote the Senna film. And
I didn't... You told me you were going.
And there was a blind auction where you basically had to write your name on a banknote and throw it in a bucket, and they pulled one out at random, and all the money went to charity, but the winner won this original artwork by what's his name? The guy, I was going to say Frank Oz, but he's the bloke from the Muppets. Who's the Paul Oz? Paul Oz, the artist. This painting of Senna, this sort of quite nice painting of just sort of the side of Senna in his crash helmet.
Yeah, like a turn face.
Like no, just really had a side on, like he's just deep in thought. Which is probably about 2.5 feet by 4 feet. I mean, it's probably a standard canvas size, but it's big. But this event took place quite close to my house where I used to live in London. So I'd walked there and I was thinking, I'll just wander home when it's done.
Of course.
Well, you can't wander home with a fucking massive canvas, particularly on a slightly breezy night. So
no, not on a breezy night.
So I was delighted that I'd won it. And but then I had to call a cab. But then a Prius turned up. And I was like, I don't want to put it in the boot, lie it down, and then the bloke's like cleaning products fall onto it. Because it's original canvas, and it wasn't. It might have been wrapped in brown paper, or maybe it wasn't. I don't think it was. I don't think it was because they'd been showing it off when they'd announced this blind raffly thing. But getting into the back of a normal car with enormous canvas, and you're worrying about just punching a head through it, particularly a bit pissed.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
Did you give it to a tramp on the way home?
No, I still got it. It's a nice picture. Anyway, where are we going now? I don't know. We should wrap this up because we should. Because I know.
Johnny, guys, listen.
Look,
it'll do this all day, guys.
Guys.
Look and learn. Did you like that thing on social media on Instagram that I put on the Smith and Sniff Instagram? Which, if you haven't visited it or started following us, you can. There's no pressure. But I put an Instagram story of someone coming out of a car show in a BMW Z3 that was modified.
Oh yes,
and basically clutch sidestepped it, and then did the overcorrection one-handed palming. Yeah. And it just didn't work.
Yeah.
But unfortunately did it in front of a crowd.
It was so palmy though. It's the dedication to it. It's like once you're committed to the bit, you've got to stay there. When the steering
unravels on a drift, you're not going to need to stay connected with the palm. You've got to let the thing unwind quickety quick. I felt sad. And then someone commented and went, I'd totally forgotten how good looking the Z3 was, and I'm not sure I agree. I'm just thinking of Pierce Brosnan in what looked to be a very base modelling,
really base modelling 1.9
on 15-inch wheels, going across a field or something.
Yes, it was so pony.
And didn't he sit really proud?
Yes, well he did because they had those. I remember the seats were quite high in those, but they weren't good.
So it just looks like it's one of those children's cars that's half scale.
But didn't they have it in the studio or on the set supposedly in Q's lab? But clearly they hadn't had time to do anything fancy to it, so they just made up a load of shit. Oh yeah, it's got lasers behind the headlights and it can fly, but we're not going to show you any of that. You're just going to drive it across a field, Bond. Is that all right? Yeah, that's okay.
But exactly. Pierce was like, let's just get this done, and then I could have a stiff drink at the hotel. It's a very Bond spec thing to do, isn't it? Just get the fucking car out of the way. Let's go and drink. I think we should all. Again, that would be a really good one-make budget motorsport challenge. It would be base model Z3s that nobody cares about, and of course the pace car would be Doom Blue ML. A really disappointing pace car just to throw the drivers off the scent. They're trying to prep for their race faces, and there's this fucking idiot. This fucking idiot in a pace car with receipts flying out.
Just receipts and fag ash.
Just like littering the track before the race has even started. Like, what are you doing?
Oh man. Oh yeah. Right. Well, let's wind it up. Before we go, we've got three things to tell you. They are one, Johnny has a solo YouTube channel. It's called Interrogate Drake's Mates Show, in which Johnny hunts down friends of the Canadian musician, ties them to a chair and demands to know his whereabouts. If that's not to your taste, then there's always the Late Break Show. Lots of excellent videos on there about all sorts of stuff. Second thing I've got to tell you is, as we mentioned earlier, we have merch, t-shirts, mugs, all of that sort of malarkey. We'll share some links, but so we have Steam Rally Wrongens mugs and Spout, and it'll do what's the other one? On That Side of Things.
On That Side of Things.
Quite
Non-stop talking
snazzy design for that.
Yeah.
And
a big thank you to Car and Classic, who do sponsor this podcast. And but
guys,
a word of warning: when you
guys.
go on their website, you'll never leave. You'll never leave. It's proper Hotel California for car perverts.
And the third thing I've got to tell you is that the Luton van was invented to transport hats.
Was it?
How
big's the bastard hat?
I know. It's one of these ones where I feel like I should have double checked this, but I'm pretty sure because Luton was a centre of hat making, as indeed was Stockport, near where I'm from. But
I'm thinking that you needed. Did you have your hat delivered also with a penny farthing? Maybe they threw in there was a bog off deal going on.
Probably, yeah. Well, actually, you can't really wear a sort of Victorian spec hat without riding a penny farthing. It just looks stupid. So.
I'd like to see a front-wheel drive burnout on a penny farthing, because obviously they were front-wheel drive.
Why aren't there more front-wheel drive bikes?
Well, discuss.
Yeah.
I feel like that with the listeners
on the telly in the 80s. I'm sure I saw on like Blue Peter or something a two-wheel drive BMX that used some kind of cog system.
Yes,
but I cannot figure out how the steering would have worked.
Well, that's one for Colin Furze.
Yeah,
surely.
I mean, even a UJ wouldn't do the job, would it? I don't know. Colin Furze, if you're listening,
it's just a double. It's a double. Yeah, it's a double cog, but the turning bit.
You're turning difficult.
It would be a UJ. It'd be shaft drive. It'd be shaft drive front end.
As I said before, our listeners are clever. They'll know.
People.
They'll either be able to do us a sketch, or they'll go, actually, there's a company in Leicester that makes them, because that's often the way with these things.
Yeah.
Either way.
They sell it to festival goers, Burning Man people.
Much though, we really only just read out the tip of the iceberg of letters, and not letters, keep saying letters, messages that we get, but we do always enjoy reading them, even if we forget to mention them. So hello@smithandsniff.com, or if you're one of our patrons, you can message us through Patreon. Yeah. And we will do this all again next week. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Well, that went on longer than expected, but that's fine.
It's 5 to 7.
Shitting heck.